You're listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Here are your hosts, Fran Chismar and Tom Kinezic.
Welcome back to The Buzz, brought to you by the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. I am Fran Chismar.
And I'm Tom Kinezic, and welcome to episode 183. A little out of order here. Should we do some follow-up on that, Fran?
Yeah, it's weird. Like, this is the first time that we're not in the time loop. Like, this episode's going to air this week.
Yes, yeah.
And this should have been last week, but I had COVID.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in the office all last week.
And we talked about, should we do a Zoom episode where we can pull this off, and just had a lot of stuff going on. We had an episode in the bank, so said, let's do the Paw Paw one a little early.
And I didn't sound great. Like, I could have done it, but it would have been, I wasn't feeling my best. It would have been sloppy. Yeah. So we had a great episode with Adam D'Angelo that we were excited that we had. So we put that out, and then we're going to do 2 Buzz episodes in a row to kind of get us back on track. And I think no more time-space continuum for the rest of the year. We have all of our guests scheduled on the week that it's going to go out. So we're good at least till January before it starts getting crazy again.
Yeah,
I think.
Definitely.
So, it's just weird to be back like on a normal schedule.
Yeah.
It really feels like we haven't done this, and we haven't recorded in 2 weeks, like over 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I guess you're right. It does feel a little strange hopping back in here. But before we get into all that good native plant talk, we do have a couple things to follow up on that also tend to be native plant related. So first thing first, Fran, did last time we did a Buzz episode, we gave away these copies of Camille Dungy's book Soil, which are still sitting right here in front of me.
Yes.
Which is a pretty good indicator that
we might
not have gotten contacted about winners.
Yeah, there's 2 copies sitting there because one is my original copy that I gave to you.
Yes, okay.
The other one is the signed copy. So we did mail one out. Betsy Howland, who was the winner that we did in The Secret. She was the second winner.
Okay.
So she contacted us, and she sent us a screen. To prove it was her, she sent a screenshot of her view of her review.
Okay.
So you could see it was like her writing it.
Yeah.
So we're able to prove that, and we mailed the book out, and I couldn't believe we got a winner that contacted us within 3 days.
Yeah.
But the other winner did not contact us, which means...
And do you remember what that winner was?
I don't.
I think I might have it.
I had written it down at some point. It was... I don't remember.
That didn't do it. Oh, wait. No, I don't think this is it. I think I somehow deleted the results, and then I started spinning again just for fun.
We have it documented, but I can't remember if I heard it.
But it's too late for them anyway.
Yeah,
so
it's too
whatever.
Late. So do you want to save it for the secret?
Yeah, let's
again?
do it at the end.
We'll spin the wheel again. So if you've
should I give it a test spin just to see what happens? Should I? No.
Nah, don't do it. Don't do it. But for those of you that had already entered, you're entered again, and we're going to spin it, and we're going to pick another winner. So we still have 1 copy of the book to give away, and we're going to do that. So I see you have some things on the follow-up that I don't know anything about, so I'm interested.
So I was sometime in the last week, I remember I woke up in the morning, and I was perusing Facebook, and I'd recently joined it's like a Facebook, it's like a Paw Paw fan club.
Yeah.
Santino actually referred it because he posted something about it, and I was like, I'm not a member of this, so I joined it.
For some reason, I didn't join it. I just realized I'll have to join it.
And in there, someone put up like a very poorly worded message about Paw Paws and had a picture of a Paw Paw cider.
Oh.
And how it was worded, it sounded like he was selling the Paw Paw ciders. Okay. But he wasn't selling the Paw Paw ciders. But he wasn't like saying, "Oh, I'm selling Paw Paw cider and I made this." It wasn't like that. It was, he just had like a really like very cryptic message there that when you read it implied to that he was selling something related with pawpaws that, because of the picture, it seemed like it was the pawpaw cider.
Yeah.
And so I looked it up to say, oh, this sounds good. I want to see if it's something I can get my hands on. And it was created by Ash and Elm, which is a cidery in Indiana.
Okay.
Which I think is a great name too. So after looking at like where you could find it around them or around me, which is not possible in New Jersey, I actually wrote to him and said, hey, anyone I can get this and maybe send me some and I'll give you some free shout outs on the podcast. And they wrote and said, oh yeah, it's we sold out like the day it released.
Wow.
So you can't get any. But thank you for writing in. And I was like, I'll give you a free shout out anyway. So,
I have an idea for you now that you're saying it. So like a mile or two from me, there's I don't know, like a cider mill and meadery. Mm-hmm. And that's all they do.
Yeah.
I wonder if we were to supply them with pawpaw under the conditions that we get some pawpaw cider and they give us the seed back, let them process it, use it. We get the seed back. You want me to ask them for next year?
Yeah, that could be an idea.
All right.
Now, I will add this too, that so the Ash and Elm Cider Co. actually had some really other good sounding flavors, and you can get them shipped.
Okay.
Wherever. So I was like, well, I really only wanted the pawpaw one, but these other ones are really drawing me in. So I didn't order them, but I considered it. And then the owner of the Cider Co. actually went in that pawpaw group later, because apparently a lot of people must have been looking for this, and said, we don't know why the person put up that picture and like included us in it, but he has nothing to do with us, and we're already sold out. So basically, stop asking about it. Stay tuned for next year. But yeah.
All right. Listen, you had to stop down to the cider mill by my house, like because they do blueberry, they do cranberry, they do a lot of Jersey staples, and they also do black currant, like a black currant meat, which is really good.
Sounds good. I'm big. I like cider a lot. I guess I always kind of liked it, and then there's in upstate New York, there's the Mackenzie's cider, and I really like those. And then in Europe, it's like a big thing, and this is why I really started to like cider in Europe a little bit more. Is we were in London and they served their cider cold, and it was like a heat wave, and which for London was like 86, 87, but it was so hot, and the air conditioning in our hotel room didn't work, and so you go to the pub and go to get a beer, and it's warm, and the cider was cold. So I started drinking a lot of cider. I'm like, this is actually really, really good. So yeah,
I'll give a shout out. The place by me is called Armageddon Brewing in Somerdale, and if you're in that area, stop by. It's actually right across the street from Flying Fish Brewery, so you could make a trip of it. Although Armageddon is in like a little old, like really old, like industrial strip. That almost looks abandoned. Don't let it discourage you. Once you go in, it's a little oasis, and I turned Christiane onto it, who was our producer from Native Plant Every Day, and she just stopped there last week. Cool, actually.
Cool.
So
then the other thing I had on there was something I was coming across. My wife is really hard to shop for, and it was her birthday. Yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
Happy
birthday. Wednesday. This is airing Friday, so 2 days ago at this point. And I was just looking at stuff and somehow stumbled across this like milkweed perfume, which I did not get her for her birthday. But I was like, that's kind of cool that they're making perfume out of
that is pretty cool.
Out of milkweed now. And it wasn't actually just perfume. It was they made soaps and candles and all kinds of stuff. And they had other scents as well, but milkweed was a scent, and that was from the 80K Fragrance Farm, which I'm assuming is Adirondack Fragrance Farm.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check that out. That actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You interested what milkweed perfume smells like?
Well, milkweed smells great, so I'm assuming I'm hoping it smells like milkweed. So,
I would. Yeah, I'm just curious.
Common milkweed in particular, I find to be have a really, really pleasant aroma. It's like it's somewhat mild, but it's not like it's an overpowering smell, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it's just like slightly floral, kind of herbaceous, and just like really nice. So.
I'm curious now. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah.
I want to see. I want to smell it.
Oh yeah, maybe I should have written to them and said, "Can I get a free sample and talk?" I will describe the scent very eloquently. It smells nice. Is my description.
Maybe they'd be willing to give us a bottle or two that we can give away to our listeners.
That's an interesting idea
to help promote their line, and then we can smell what it smells like.
Yeah,
cool.
So that was the stuff I had to follow up on.
Awesome.
Oh, the other thing I'll do is say I went to a New Jersey CWRP meeting, which we had on Russ Fenari quite a while ago now.
That was a long time ago.
And that's the New Jersey Corporate Wetland Restoration Partnership, and they actually just celebrated their 20th anniversary. So they've been doing that for 20 years now, and which is really remarkable. And they are the only chapter actually left in New Jersey. Really? And they're thriving. So it's one of those things where I'm surprised that in other states it wasn't able to thrive. Yeah. But it kind of highlights how well some of these, in some cases, giant corporations can really care about. They care about the wetlands in New Jersey.
Yeah, they do.
Maybe not in other states, but New Jersey they should have. But no, they do a lot of stuff, and you get some giant corporations that kind of come to the table and give out money to these really deserving projects all over the state to preserve and rehabilitate and restore wetlands.
There's fantastic people involved in that organization, and even though some of the people are retiring, they're getting to an age where they're retiring. It just seems like it keeps getting larger and larger.
Oh yeah,
They've pulled together such important people that they're able to get good work done because of it, which is exciting to see.
Yeah. So that's all we have for follow-up. So
all right, cool. That's not too bad.
Yeah, let's get into the meat of the discussion today, which is going to be, well, the start of the meat, which is man, I'm off to a good start. Is the plants reviving with this week? Let's get into That's Hot.
That's hot.
Wow, that was a little loud. I turned that. Came in hot on that one. I'm going to go first if you're okay with it.
Yeah, go ahead.
My only concern is I picked this because we were going to do it last week, and I think they've already dropped all their leaves at this point. They're not as hot. They're a little past hot. But I had chosen fragrant sumac, which is Rus aromatica. I'm not sure if we've ever done this plant on the Buzz before, but I took the information for this from A Native Plant Every Day, our other podcast. So Rus aromatica can range anywhere from 2 to 8 foot. It is an upland plant, and it's made native throughout most of the continental U.S. I think it's not native in the Pacific Northwest. Brilliant orange to red or purplish red fall color. That was pretty hot. I think it's now defoliated. Plant spreads by root suckers to form thickets in the wild. Can tolerate sun, part shade to shade. Lives 20 to 50 years. It is a late successional species that attracts butterflies and bees. It provides nesting material and structure for native bees. Berries persist into the winter, attracting many birds, including robins, sparrows, goldfinches, and chickadees. Game birds and squirrels also eat the seeds. Rabbit and deer browse the leaves. It's pollinated primarily by bees, and the fragrant sumac is a totally non-poisonous plant, and it's the host plant for the red banded hair streak butterfly. That was a mouthful. Man, we get a lot of good information in those Native Plant Every Day episodes.
Sure did.
And we're doing it. We're back for season 3, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's
probably coming up. It's sneaking up on us. But.
I know Christiane has started writing episodes or gathering the information for episodes. Typically, we start recording hopefully in January or even next month if time allows. Yeah. Who knows?
It is all.
We seem like we're busier than
time
ever.
Dependent.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, I'm just thinking of something. I know you're going to give your plant. Afterwards, for follow-up, did we want to talk about our trip to Chicago?
Oh, yeah, we were going to do that, weren't we?
Why don't you do your plant? I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
And then we can follow up a little bit with
point. I forgot about that. Was so long ago now that it feels like it's been at least 2 weeks.
How long did we went a month ago?
3 weeks.
We went a month ago.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like
it was a month ago.
The 15th?
I think it was the 16th through the 19th.
So almost a month ago now.
So anyway, my plant is going to be giant goldenrod, which is
nice.
Solidago gigantea. Not that it's particularly hot right now. It's just the plant that I guess I'd heard of it for a long time, but I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know how to discern it or anything like that. And my brother actually just figured out how to identify it.
Okay.
And then where he was, he came back to our farm. He's like, I have a feeling I know exactly where to find this on our farm. He's like, I'm pretty sure I've seen this before. And he went there and found it right away.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
Brought me out and showed me. So I'm like, oh, yeah, it's a relatively common plant, but it's not all that common in the nursery trade. Yeah. Which I guess is why I'm not really familiar with it. But it was just
we see that a lot with certain fall asters and things like that, where you see them all over, but we never see them on restoration projects or anything like that.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's a great plant. I've been hearing a really good buzz about that plant and some really good things. So
and the little write up from the wildflower.org says that giant goldenrod is a smooth stemmed goldenrod with arching flower stalks bearing flower heads of 1/4 of an inch long, and it's perennial, gets up to about 6 feet tall, green leaves, yellow flowers. Really, honestly, where I saw it, it was mixed in with a bunch of Canada goldenrod, and from a distance, you wouldn't know that there was different ones there.
Oh. Okay.
And what my brother showed me is that the Canada goldenrod has more of like a pubescent stem.
Okay.
Not crazy. It's just like a little bit fuzzy, where the giant goldenrod is definitely smooth, and the giant goldenrod had like a redder stem than the Canada did.
I'm not good with my goldenrod ID.
And these, like, literally, if you were looking at the stand from 10 feet, 5 feet back, you wouldn't, from untrained eye, would not pick out a difference.
Wow.
It's when you got in there, and I'm like, oh, I see this all over the place. I just didn't realize that this was different.
Gotcha.
But I did, because I have noticed there's ones with red stems before.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just assumed it was like a phenotypic difference. Yeah. So,
but it's a great performer.
Yeah.
You know,
which I think actually brings up like the concept of plant blindness, and how many things you walk by. There's so many things that I've featured on That's Hot where it was just like I've walked by it 1,000 times. I see it all over the place, but until I really like focused on it, or like something stuck out to me about it, then I noticed it everywhere. Yeah. And
it may
before
only be
I had never noticed it before.
It may only be a certain season or like a couple week span that catches your eye.
Yep.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was one with beech. I think I said I don't see a lot of beeches around here, and then I started seeing young beeches. I didn't see many old beeches, but young beeches, I started seeing them everywhere.
I know the bark is always easy to stand out, but especially in the wintertime when everything's defoliated and those yellow leaves are kind of sticking on, you're like, oh, there they are. There they are. There they are. But two great choices with fragrant sumac and giant goldenrod. Giant goldenrod?
Giant goldenrod.
Yeah. If you don't know them. I think either of them would be great additions to your garden. But before we get to this or that, let's go back to our trip to Chicago. You cool with that?
Oh, yeah. I already said I was.
Okay. All right.
I thought I'm waiting for you to lead in.
No, so we you had gone through, I don't know if you've ever talked about this, the Eagle program on the podcast. Have you ever talked about it before?
I don't recall. But basically, it's the Executive Academy for Growth and Leadership, which is a very non-descriptive title. It is descriptive for what it is, but it's very horticulturally focused. You wouldn't get that from the name of it. But it's put on by a guy, Dr. Charlie Hall, and a woman, Kelly O'Reilly.
Yeah. Is Corey part of it? Corey?
And then Corey works with Kelly. And
so for any old-time nursery folks that may listen to this, Corey and Kelly used to put on the Louisville management, the ASLA management clinic in Louisville that is defunct now. But they kind of ran that. So if you're familiar with that, that kind of gives you a little insight. As to,
yeah.
But and Charlie's a horticultural economist.
One of the, if not the top horticultural economist in the U.S. Probably in the world, realistically, but definitely in the U.S. Yeah. And he works with American Hort and all these different. He's was at Texas A&M as a professor, an economics professor, but he really focused on horticulture. And we're in this position where we blend the horticultural industry and the ecological restoration industry. Which is a very interesting place to be in, because I'll go to some meetings. If I go to an ecological meeting, I'm like, oh man, they don't understand the nursery and the farming side at all. And then I'll go to, I had a meeting yesterday about invasive plants, and with all these nurseries. I'm like, they don't understand the ecological side of this at all.
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't want to get into that anymore.
No, but,
I had enough of it last night. But anyway, this whole program is geared to help nurseries become more business savvy. You have a lot of nurseries were started by people who were really passionate about plants, but they did not have a lot of business sense, and then they went out of business really quickly. So this was kind of started with like some of the best nurseries, and then they trickled all the way down to us and included us too.
But it's a program that you've been through, your brother has been through.
Yep.
But there's so many great people. I guess the program was like an alumni program that you and Steve invited me along with, so I got to attend. Yep. But you're sitting in a room with 50 of the top nursery minds in the country, which is amazing. Like CEOs, presidents of all these.
And this is stuff where if you went to your local garden center, Home Depot, or Lowe's, these are the plants you're buying are from these places, like these people.
Yeah. Like you're sitting in, you're doing a negotiation drill, and I'm looking around, and the people on my team are the owner of Walter's Gardens and the, like Bailey's Nursery, and like all these incredible companies that you're getting to network with and talk business with in a setting that's fantastic. But in the same respect, we're also on a different side of the market than most of the people in that room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can we talk about the experience I had at the one outing, or is that something you want to save for later? I don't know.
I don't know if we want to talk about that yet or not.
There's a whole really good story that happened to me.
Yeah.
On this trip.
Really cool story that happened to Fran, but I don't know what might come of it. So I don't know if we should tell it or not. And I don't know if it's as impressive it is to us. I don't know if it would be impressive to a lot of people listening, because they're like, I don't know who any of these people are. But
it lended some unique opportunities.
Yes, for sure.
Which may or may not happen, or whether it includes us or not, that maybe it helps change people's mind about native plants. But it's just it's a very cool, unique opportunity to get to sit with these people in a way that you typically wouldn't get this amount of time with, and to do team building skills with. And it was just I was so pumped. I don't know if I even shut up on the ride back to the airport about it. Yeah. Because it gives you so many great ideas and ways to look at things. So.
Yeah. But anyway, it's out in Chicago, which is a different area of the country than we normally get to work in. And we've gotten to be friends with some nurseries that are out there. So our flight that made the most sense actually got there at like 8 a.m. and we didn't have anything to do until 6 p.m., 6 p.m. So we're like, well, let's rent a car and go out and visit some of these places. So we drove out to Pizzo Nursery, which is in Illinois, about an hour and 20 minutes outside of Chicago, and got an awesome tour from Kyle and Mandy there. And anytime you go to a different nursery as a nursery person, there's always like little things that you see where you're like, oh man, I can't believe we didn't think about doing it that way. That is so much better than the way we do things. And so we got a lot of that.
We definitely, and it's always nice to see native plant nurseries in other parts of the country too, and just see what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it was extremely impressive. And they're fantastic people too, who we've met. We just had never been to their nursery before. Yeah,
definitely. And then from there we drove an hour and a half ish up to Taylor Creek Nursery in Wisconsin, just over the Wisconsin border from Illinois. And so first time in Wisconsin for me, which is cool. And got a nice tour from Elliot there, and saw Cynthia as well. Yeah. And I didn't catch the name of some of the other folks we met.
Such an impressive nursery. On the seed, just the seed part of it alone was mind blowing to me. And they have some really cool things on their property too, like the Hill Prairie and things like that. Some remnant prairies, but it was just cool to see that kind of operation and what they were doing, and to the scale that they were doing it was just so impressive. It was I didn't expect, not in a bad way. I just didn't expect it to be to be blown away.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
But no, it ended up good. I know we talked about on Paw, we ended up getting some Spotted Cow beer and deep dish pizza on the way back. Yeah. And we cut it really close. Actually, I think we were about 30 minutes late.
We were supposed to be there at originally, I think it started at like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or I don't remember. Turns out that was just the dinner. So we missed getting our free dinner.
Yeah.
But that was whatever.
We had pizza anyway.
Yeah. They had pizza later. We had pizza earlier. And then but it was a really good trip.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to see different nurseries in different part of the country and have this nurseries that have the same mission as we do. Yeah. And just the little tiny things that they do differently than us. And we're looking forward to having them out at some point to check out our place.
Exactly. I just feel so, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. I want to say blessed that we're in an industry where I mean, technically, we're not competitors because of the area of the company or the area of the country that we're all in.
Yep.
But to be able to be so friendly with people that you compete with.
Yeah, for sure.
And share customer you have similar customers that you can recommend each other to or show someone how you're doing this or, hey, come here and we'll show you what we're doing. It's just, I don't think you get that everywhere. Actually, part of this program, we did a tour of Ball Horticulture.
Yeah.
And their CEO was saying he was originally from M&M Mars.
Yeah.
And that if he was walking down the street and saw someone from Nestle, he would cross the street, and you kind of grumble under your breath. But where here, you can welcome your competitor in and shake hands and break bread and share what you're doing. And I know there's other industries that do that. I just feel very fortunate that that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That we can do that.
And
I genuinely like the people that
for sure.
that we're doing it with.
Sure. There's a thing I read about the Italian car industry at one point, and kind of similar idea where it was like once a year you think like all these Ferrari and I don't remember all the cars. Lamborghini's another one, right? Yeah. All these Italian car manufacturers, like the big luxury ones. Yeah. They would have their engineers like go to dinner like once a year just to kind of, because they wanted, not only did they want to all have like really awesome car designs and businesses, but they also wanted the Italian car industry to boost as a whole.
Yeah.
Because that resulted in people saying, well, I want an Italian luxury car because a German luxury car is not going to be good enough. The Italian ones are the best. Yeah. So they would like kind of get to dinner, share some stuff, so the entire industry would boost, and then like collaborate and then do their own thing once they left.
And I know we mentioned it. I know we have a Facebook group of native plant growers, and when we're at conferences and or trade shows, we all try to get together and hang out for an evening. Like we did it in Baltimore. You did it in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah. Yep.
That kind of stemmed a little bit from Jack Pizzo. Approaching us at a trade show, like with a similar thing. Like instead of Italian car makers, he kind of brought up the California wine industry.
Exactly.
Working together to kind of raise each other up as a industry as a whole. So I love that we can go to a conference and hang out with 30 other native plant growers and say, hey, I got a question. I'm struggling with this, or how you doing that? And we all get along really well, which I appreciate. So I think that covers it. You want to go to
I think
that?
So. Let's do.
Was there anything else that happened there? I don't think so.
Not that I can recall.
No,
but
no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I did think it was interesting that when you're at the headquarters for Ball Horticulture, which I think is the largest nursery in the world, that the meadows and the grounds were designed by Jack Pizzo.
Yeah.
Pizzo
That was the one thing I would bring up is you're in this place that's
known for
a lot of its genetic things that it does, where how it's creating all these new varieties of plants, and then a lot of their landscape was native plants.
Yeah.
And that was just a really, really cool thing to see.
Not what you would expect, but it was like it was noticeable as soon as our bus pulled up in front. I was like, "Look at this!"
Yeah.
And I was in awe a little bit of it because it wasn't what I expected.
Definitely not. Yeah. So.
All right, cool. So I am thinking let's do a little bit of Well, a lot of it of this or that.
Yeah, let's do it.
You can get with this, or you can get with that.
So it's been a while since we've recorded a buzz, but we do have a winner, and the winner is Tom, who beat me 11-8. Tom's article was about what does your landscape say about you, and my article was on national parks restoring grasslands in South Dakota. So a lot of people liked your article. There was a lot of people sharing photos saying, "Oh, well, look at my yard says I'm eco chic."
Yeah.
So it was that was a very fun article. So you get to choose if you want to go first or second. I didn't even look to see what you have yet.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Oh, no, you know what? Why don't you go first?
All right, cool. Actually, I just looked at what yours is, and I do know what it is, and I think that's going to maybe spark even another conversation as far as
that's why I figured, why don't you go first, because I think we're going to talk a little bit more about my article after.
I agree.
Yeah, I actually shared it with Fran earlier in the week based on something that was going on in our Facebook group. So,
so
and so, this is actually the article I was thinking about.
Which I sparked without knowing what was going to do. But my article is called "Birds Nesting in Agricultural Lands Are More Vulnerable to Extreme Heat, Study Finds." And this article is by Melina Walling, and I found the article on phys.org. I don't think it's that long. No, it's like a page. Let's see. As climate change intensifies extreme heat, farms are becoming less hospitable to nesting birds, a new study found. That could be another barrier to maintaining rapidly eroding biodiversity that also provides benefits to humans, including farmers who get free pest control when birds eat agricultural pests. Researchers who examined data on over 150,000 nesting attempts found that birds in agricultural lands were 46% less likely to successfully raise at least one chick when it got really hot than birds in other areas. I don't think we expected it to be as extreme as it was, said Catherine Locke, a PhD candidate at University of California, Davis, and lead author of the study published Thursday in the journal Science. Bird scientists have been tracking the decline of avian wildlife for years. In 2019, a comprehensive study showed that there were 3 billion fewer wild birds than in 1970. The new study represents a closer look at what might be behind the dramatic decline. Intense commercial farming is known to harm birds. Fields completely clear of trees and other natural barriers lack shelter for wildlife, and pesticides and other agricultural chemicals can hurt birds. The study concluded that species of higher conservation concern in the U.S., those closer to being listed as federally threatened or endangered, were more vulnerable to extreme heat events in agricultural settings. But across the board, birds in forests were 14% more likely to achieve reproductive success in times of extreme heat. The study's findings were not surprising to Ken Rosenberg, a biologist with the Road to Recovery Initiative, who formerly worked as a conservation biologist at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and was lead author on what he calls the 3 billion bird study. The idea that forest birds could benefit slightly from warmer temperatures makes sense, he said, since shade from trees provide a buffer from extreme heat that agricultural areas don't have. Rosenberg, who was not affiliated with the study, said he was pleased to see a paper in a prestigious journal using large data sets built from citizen science data. In this case, the observations came from Nest Watch, a nationwide nest monitoring program that anyone can participate in. However, Rosenberg cautioned that more data might be needed to confirm that species of higher conservation concern were more vulnerable, since the overwhelming majority of the data involved species of low conservation concern. The researchers predicted how different bird species might fare in each landscape during extreme heat events. They concluded that in agricultural areas, species of greater conservation concern, like the oak titmouse, would see worse outcomes than species of lower concern, like the house sparrow. Rosenberg and David Bird, a professor emeritus of wildlife biology at McGill University, said that the study contributes to the understanding of the negative effects of intense single-crop farming. Bird said the study sings the praises of the need for preserving our forests, which not only protect birds from hot weather, but also help protect ecosystems from global warming by absorbing carbon. The study suggests that if farmers purposefully left just a little more natural space around farms with few trees or native plants, not necessarily changing everything about their operations, birds could better coexist with humans, Rosenberg said. Some of these open country birds don't really need a lot of habitat or a lot of space, he said. They just need some. Lead author Lauk is now working to better understand exactly why birds experience such large differences in nesting success between farmed and forested areas, hoping that would point toward useful interventions. New solutions that are neutral for farmers but helpful for biodiversity in the long term will create more resilient biosphere for all of us, they said. So I thought that was pretty interesting because you don't always think about bird interaction when it comes to farm crops. Although yesterday while I was walking to my car, our property borders 300 acres of farmland.
Yeah.
And right behind the nursery, there's a huge field of soy. And there was a red-tailed hawk that was circling a foot above the soy, just looking for for prey. Obviously we've talked about succession and different forms of succession bring different biodiversity and habitat. Like it's shocking to hear how many birds we've lost in the last 50 years because that's my lifetime. And I know that's changed as far as what the land is used for. So I know that's changed, but I would imagine that the birds that you find in farm fields are more adaptable to those conditions rather than it's not you have forested birds that are particularly just living there because it's a different birds have different needs. But we've been seeing for a long time trying to implement, especially in New Jersey, buffer fields and native plants. I know NRCS has been working really heavily on that, just to have a little bit of buffer around some of these fields, natural buffer. We see it around here where we're at, but when we were out in Chicago driving through Illinois and Wisconsin, I mean, how many times did we go by cornfields that went as far as the eye?
For miles.
Yeah,
and miles
as far
and
as the
miles.
eye could see.
It was
here. It's a little more pockets, with woods around it.
Yeah,
kind of.
That was something where just going back. That was one of my big takeaways from our trip to Chicago that I should have added is when I think of so many people are saying how disrupting agriculture is to wildlife and pollinators, which I agree with.
Yeah.
But being where we are, I'm like, well, agriculture, has its impacts, but development is way bigger of an impact. And when I said those things, I kind of did forget about what the middle of the country looked like. And so, in that sense, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I can totally get why agriculture is a big impact to pollinators and wildlife.
Yeah.
Seeing this. Here in New Jersey, it's kind of intermeshed, and it's the development is way bigger impact than agriculture ever could be. In fact, I'm actually speaking next week at the New Jersey Farm Bureau convention, and my big the name of the talk is growing for pollinators, and it's a little bit is about our business model, but then also saying as a farmer, here's the benefits of actually doing things for pollinators on your farm. And you're giving up a little bit, but it's a lot to the wildlife and insects. Well, they mentioned just pest control with having birds, but when you think of we saw we could have gotten out of the car and spun in a 360 circle, and it would have been nothing but corn as far as the eye can see. So when you have a monoculture like that, how much biodiversity can you have as far as wildlife and birds? Because there's only so many things that can handle that. So I would imagine that's some of the concern. It's kind of things but the article kind of put it in perspective for me and kind of made me focus on it when I hadn't really thought about it before. Yeah, and you have more bare soil in those kind of conditions, which is going to increase to just the temperature in those areas. Yeah. And then you're going to have basically a changing crop every year. So all this corn that we saw this year, a lot of it's going to be soybeans next year, and they rotate through. So, and that's got to impact bird populations as well, because you're going to have different insects and different things that are going to like corn versus soy, and vice versa. And the birds that are feeding on those things are going to be different.
I would imagine that would affect migration also for birds that are migrating through that area. So. That would make it a little bit more difficult. But it was this article was good timing for me after having been in Chicago or in Illinois and Wisconsin, where we saw a lot more farm than what we typically see here. Like, it's funny, we have a lot of farmland by us, but not like that.
Yeah.
Not farmland by that. It's like little pockets.
For sure.
So, and I am looking forward to your article, because I have a feeling this is going to be a good conversation.
So, yeah, mine was I pulled this article. I don't even remember where I got it at this point, but I pulled it off LinkedIn or Facebook, and then in our Facebook group, there's actually a discussion about this. So I figured I'd talk about the article and then give some of my thoughts about it. So,
and then we'll talk about the discussion at the Facebook group after you read the article.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Or do you want to give some? It started from a post that I did on my Facebook about an area in our backyard that we're solarizing, that we're using old camping tarps to cover. We have a patch. It's this weird patch that's probably the size of your office, Tom, which is like it's 10 foot wide and it's 30 foot long. The area.
Yeah.
So, because it took 3 tarps to cover. I'm assuming they're 10 by 10. I don't know. And it's all invasive daylily. What's that? Hemercalis fulva, I want to say.
I don't know.
But it's that typical like orange daylily that the tubers are so thick. We had a small patch in our front yard that was maybe a 5 by 5 that I dug out, and it took me 2 days. And I still didn't get all the tubers, and we still have coming up. So we're like, let's try to solarize this. And I kind of just highlight it like, hey, this is a project I'm working on that we're going to revisit every couple months if you're interested. And I was saying that I was using plastic, but you could use cardboard and, clear plastic typically works better. I'm not necessarily even doing it at the right time of the year.
Yeah.
But we figured we had time to kill. We'd just do it all winter. And see where it was at, because I knew it was going to be hard to kill these daylilies.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize I had commenting turned off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Kevin Moriarty kind of commented on it in the Facebook group to say, hey, I can't remember what his comment was, but then there was a conversation that they're saying
His was saying that I think it was that
about
they had
ivy,
success.
because I was saying with ivy.
Yeah, with ivy, that they'd had success just putting the cardboard on it and then covering it with mulch, right?
Yeah, because I have large swaths of English ivy in my backyard that eventually we're moving to next.
Yeah.
And then someone commented that there's new research about PFAS in cardboard. But I guess it depends on the type of cardboard you're using. I don't know that there's the same amount of I don't think you're getting PFAS in pizza box cardboard. But I didn't necessarily clarify that. A lot of people use pizza boxes. So that's kind of what sparked the discussion, just what was safe to use and some of the new research coming out about it. Yeah. So we had a whole discussion about this, and little did we know that Tom kind of had an article.
Yeah, and it was really just to kind of have the discussion. I don't know where I stand on this whole
I don't know enough.
I
don't know enough to maybe intelligibly discuss it in depth.
Yeah. So we already kind of had a little bit of discussion on our Facebook group, but this article was to kind of have more of a discussion.
Yes.
Because there's parts of it that I don't necessarily understand. And when I look at it, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that really makes sense. So I'm going to read the article, and then we'll get into more of that discussion afterwards. But it was actually from the LA Times, has a plant column, and I forgot to cite the author on the script, so I'll have to look that up at some point. But the title of the article was, "What's the fastest way to kill your lawn? Science says forget the cardboard." And it's basically a blog that is in the LA Times. But so I'll read some starting now. Right. An update on my ongoing quest to find the cheapest, easiest, and most effective way to smother weeds and unwanted lawns to create drought-tolerant landscapes and better soil. Arborist Linda Chalker-Scott, horticultural professor and advisor for the Washington State University Puyallup Research and Extension Center, says the best method is not only the easiest, it's also supported by scientific research. Mow the lawn and or weeds as low as possible. Basically scalp it, she said. Cover the turf and or weeds with at least 8 to 12 inches of freshly cut wood chips. Then wait a month or two for the grass and or weeds to die. There's no need to remove the sod or spread a layer of newspaper or cardboard first, said Chalker-Scott, who explains it all on the Garden Professors, a science-based blog she helped create. Weeds and lawn won't grow without light, she said. After 6 weeks or so, pull back the chips. If any grass is still green, wait until it's brown and decomposing, she said. Then you can dig into the soil, add new plants, and return the mulch to help build better soil. She bases her technique off of a study published in 2005 where she and others tried to find ways to eliminate a patch of weedy blackberry bushes to make way for native plants. They mowed the field and sprayed half of it with the herbicide glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup. The other half was covered with a foot of wood chips. They let the area sit all fall and winter, planted native plants in both sections, and sat back and watched. On the glyphosate side, all the weeds came roaring back and all the native plants died, she said. On the wood chip side, we had 100% survival of the native plants. In fact, it was better than 100% because the snowberries did so well they started spreading, which was a turning point for me. Wood chips are so easy and natural that she and her arborist colleagues are all fanatics about their benefits. I even have one colleague who says if something's wrong in your landscape, the answer is wood chip mulch. What about the purported benefits of lasagna mulching, where you cover the ground with flattened, well-moistened cardboard or newspaper before adding the chips and other amendments? This topic exasperates Chalker-Scott, who's written 7 garden myth-busting books. There's no peer-reviewed research on the benefits of cardboard mulch, she said, and the little research that exists indicate that using cardboard mulch does more harm than good. I'm all for following nature in how we manage our gardens and landscapes, she wrote in April, but deep sheet mulching isn't natural, it's batshit crazy. Chalker-Scott was part of the only scientific study using cardboard as mulch that she has seen. The 2019 study examined how carbon dioxide and oxygen move throughout various mulches in and out of the ground. A 4-inch layer of wood chips has the best airflow of any mulch. A single layer of cardboard with nothing on top was 10 times worse, and landscape fabric was 100 times worse, she said. People don't think about oxygen being a critical component in the soil, she said. They want to smother weeds, but what they're doing is smothering the ecosystem and the living things in the soil. The moles and earthworms and microbes will suffer and possibly die. Anecdotal reports of earthworms and fungi teeming under the cardboard could well be those creatures trying to get oxygen, said Chalker-Scott. A study published in May looked at environmental contaminants in bedding materials for chickens, which included shredded cardboard. And this was actually one of the studies that was cited in the Facebook discussion.
Yeah.
I'm realizing now. The study found that cardboard had some of the highest levels of hazardous contaminants, including so-called forever chemicals that are harmful to animals, including humans, and the overall environment. So why, she says, would you add that to your garden soil? Plant pathologist James Downer of Ventura, another garden professor blogger, agrees that wood chips without cardboard are the best approach to rebuilding soil and squelching unwanted grasses and weeds. But Downer, a retired horticultural advisor for Ventura County's UC Cooperative Extension Office and plant science instructor at Cal Poly Pomona, Pomona. You can tell we're from the East Coast. So, warns that Southern California has more warm season grasses like Bermuda grass, which are harder to kill. He recommends covering the lawn with 8 to 12 inches of wood chips and then being vigilant about yanking any rhizomes that pop through or using a spot application of the grass herbicide. I don't remember how to pronounce that one. Flazofop P-butyl, such as Fusilade 2 to kill intruders. There's a note in here, too, saying that the EPA says that chemical is toxic to fish and other aquatic creatures and can be harmful to humans if inhaled or absorbed through the skin. Oh. So getting chips is relatively easy, Downer says. Talk to local tree trimming company to request a delivery of arborist fresh wood chips or sign up with Chip Drop, which connects arborists looking to dump chips with people who want them. The chips are free, although you might get faster service if you pay a small fee. Be warned, however, the drops can be huge, enough to bury your driveway, and may be delivered without warning. So, a lot going on there.
Yes.
You put it in context with that Facebook discussion that we had, which I'm thankful that everyone involved didn't escalate it to where I've seen with other Facebook groups.
I'm not going to say that I wasn't a little concerned that it might go that way.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
We were kind of watching, like eating some popcorn. Is this the first one?
Yeah.
Is this going to happen? And,
now, for me, for what I'm trying to do, like I've learned that with the front garden, we did wood chips, even though I hand dug out because I'm dealing with an invasive, it didn't prevent it. Like that hemerocallis.
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to solarize it with plastic. And I thought it would be a good learning experience for anyone going through it. It was either do it this way or I couldn't hand dig. I was going to have to get a rototiller.
And now what you're doing is a little different than what you're covering it and then to kill everything, then uncovering it.
Yeah.
To
plant, like I had to remove a native herbaceous garden when we had a patio put down this year. So they're all in pots. So I'm looking at making that area a meadow over time. Yeah. The daylilies are I don't know that even with rototilling it would take care of it. Mm-hmm. I had someone reach out who's a little bit of an expert on this after watching the video and going, you may still find that you may need to spot treat with chemicals. And I'm like, but that's a good teaching and learning thing for everyone.
And who was the expert? Can you say? You don't want to say?
I don't want to say.
You don't want to give up your sources?
They're going to be a future guest on the podcast. I just don't know that. I know what their Facebook name is, which I don't know if that's really their.
Oh, interesting.
Their full real name.
I'm trying to figure out who this is.
I'm going to write it down.
We're going to share secrets here. But
wait, here's their name, and you can see why I'm hesitant to say it out loud.
Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me about this now, yeah.
So it may get to the point where I may need – it's a tool in the toolbox. It may get to a point where I may need to spot treat with chemicals to rid invasives and because I want it to be successful because I know these daylilies are so invasive and aggressive that they can choke out the rest of it.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I took the video. But did I think about cardboard? I did. Mm-hmm. I just didn't have it at my disposal at the time. Yeah.
And it's so from my experience with this, my brother started actually it was in a farm a town over from us. Yeah. Started a program with their community where they built these I think it was actually an Eagle Scout for an Eagle Scout project. Built a pizza box collection box. Pizza box collection box. So people, when they were done with their pizza boxes, because you can't recycle pizza boxes because of the oils in them, right? The pizza, greasy pepperoni leaks in the cardboard, and big problems for recycling centers. They can't use it, and they have to throw out whole loads. So don't do that. Yes. You can rip off the tops if they're not greasy and recycle those. Anyway, they built this pizza box recycling box, and then the other farm would come and collect them, and then use them they were an organic vegetable farm. And use it to mulch around their vegetable rows instead of putting down a plastic mulch. So they put that down, then put wood mulch over top, and that was how they would keep weed suppression down so they'd have to use a chemical application to keep weeds down. An Eagle Scout in our town wanted to do it, and they started reaching out to local farms. My brother got involved and said that he would use them, and I give him a hard time because I'm like, you didn't really have a way to use them. You had to invent ways to use them. It's not like we're a vegetable farm. So he was taking them and actually using them to be like a mat around trees. So like trees that he planted on our farm, he would then cut a hole, like a slit in the pizza box, wrap it around the base of the tree, and then wood mulch over top of that. Same idea, keeping weed pressure down. And it works really well. We posted this on our Facebook account, our Nursery Facebook account, and got a couple comments right away saying, oh, you shouldn't do that because of the PFAS. Yeah. And so I started looking into it saying, is this real or is this alarmism? Yeah. And I think from what I could tell, there's not a ton of research out there about it. From what I could tell, it was real. A lot of the pizza box manufacturers, because of this, because literally you get from what I can tell, it was like the slick boxes that pizzas used to come in, where they were really heavy in those chemicals. And they were finding that they were transferring to the food. and just to avoid that, they stopped using a lot of that stuff. Yeah. So with pizza boxes tend to be pretty clean now, but they might not be 100% clean. But it was enough there. I was like, we need to make sure we're doing our due diligence here. We can't just. It's a feel good story, but even from the beginning, I kind of had my doubts that like, does it work? And is it? Well, there's inks in it. There's all this kind of stuff. Yeah. Is that actually what is the ink made out of? Is that beneficial? Is that something that's being banned to the ground?
Yeah.
And is it actually a better solution than what is already going on? And so I kind of had my doubts there with the cardboard, and then with the PFAS thing, I'm like, oh, maybe we take a step back here because that could be worse. So, but from what I found, a lot of the cardboard does not have a lot in it, and it's hard to judge because you have some research that says it does and some research that says it doesn't. It seems like the websites that say that it's loaded with it are like the real like alarmist eco websites. So yeah, it's hard. It was a hard one to wade through and figure out what was true and what was not.
Yeah,
I've also tried with wood mulch, just wood mulch, and it works with some things, but I get a lot of pears that push up through. I get a whole new like wave of weeds on top.
Yeah.
But I've also wasn't going 8 to 12 inches deep. I was probably like 4 to 6 inches deep. So is that why I was having issues, or
maybe I don't know. It's hard to say.
So yeah, I don't know. And then I've heard some things about some of the people referenced in this article, that where I'm like, I don't know enough about it to know for sure, but I've heard enough about the people in this article, or some of the people in this article, that their credibility is thrown in doubt to some people.
Yeah,
I don't know. So yeah, it's a really interesting conundrum. I don't
think we know all the facts.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to approach it from the standpoint that we always approach with having a toolbox, and you wouldn't use a hammer for everything, but you use it just where you need it. You know, like we don't say, "Hey, go crazy with glyphosate," but if you had to spot treat one or two areas, it's a better solution. It's at least a tool to have in there, and without having all the information, you would have to assume that there is going to be some issues, but how big? Is it a better solution than something else?
I guess going back, a lot of my concern with the cardboard was how is bringing this man-made product. I think it felt like more of a feel-good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm using this because it's safe. It's the same thing that happens. I see all the time. It's like, oh, don't spray the slugs in your yard with the insects with this like poison from the Home Depot. Just use Dawn dish detergent and salt and vinegar instead. It's like they're also chemicals. Like it's just a chemical that's in your house that you assume is safe because it's in your house versus something you're getting from a big box store. Yeah. Like it's the same kind of thing I think with the cardboard. It's like we're assuming this is safe because everything comes in cardboard. Yeah. But does that actually mean it is safe? I don't know.
Well, I remember
I'm not a cardboard expert.
Having my old house had an above ground pool, and the deck had that like pool deck carpeting that was getting moss on it. Mm-hmm. And in researching like how do I get the moss off of this, like the most common answer was white vinegar.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, you wouldn't just go and drink a cup of white vinegar. Like, you know what I mean? Like you use a little bit of white vinegar, but like if you're using that to kill moss, it can't be all that great for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's probably one of those things, like in so many things, in moderation it's okay, but like for a little bit in your salad dressing, or this white vinegar will take rust off of like metal.
Yeah.
And you let it sit there, and it's not that long either. It's like less than a day. it'll just strip rust off metal. Yeah. So
I think what's important and what I can appreciate about how the conversation played out in the Facebook group is it's just the fact that it's important to have these conversations. And so many different views were brought on this and so many different factors that it's good that we can rationally have the conversation and figure out. We still don't know what the best way is. We just know more about what we don't know. So it's until we know more, you just proceed with caution and just keep it, what's the best tool in your toolbox
Mm-hmm.
to work.
The
on
other
that.
thing I'll bring up with the wood chips is, so we actually use a lot of wood chips at our farm, and things like Chip Drop are great, but you need to have the space for them, which they warn you about here. But that was something someone else brought to our attention, is like, yeah, you live in an HOA where you can't have something like a car parked on the street or something like that, but you're going to be able to leave a pile of wood chips there for months. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you do need the space for them if you're going to go that route. And then you also have some issues with the fresh wood chips will actually steal nitrogen for how they're breaking down and decomposing. They're actually stealing nitrogen, which can actually hurt your plants starting out. So you have to watch out for that too. Yeah. So it's not like something where you're going to get that fresh load of wood chips, put it down, and then plant right in it, because that's also going to lead to disaster.
Yeah, totally.
And then another thing that's actually happening right now, you're talking about the solarization, is that's killing a lot of life in your soil, which I think is referenced in the article.
Yes.
Like that's killing the life in your soil, and then you're hoping it rebounds.
Rebounds, yeah.
So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff going on with that, even in New Jersey right now too. So it's I don't know if there is a 100% like danger-free answer.
Like I said, I know I could have tilled and tried to take all the tubers out, which wasn't going to occur.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to till. It's just, because that brings a whole nother slew of things. So I'm like, I don't know what the best answer is. I'm going with this.
Yep.
For what I'm trying to accomplish, I'm going with this and hoping. Yeah. And let's see how it goes. So, but I think it's a great conversation. I appreciate everyone that also joined in on that conversation. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, go to the Facebook group, see this, look at the conversation, see some of the articles, and do a little research of your own. Mm-hmm. And while you're there, this will go up on Monday where you can vote. So it's Tom's article on the best way to kill your lawn, and my article about bird nesting in agricultural lands and climate change. We'll have it up on the Monday, and you get to vote because,
And of course, the choice is yours.
I should say, go and vote because. There you go.
There you
Sorry,
go.
it's been a while since I messed that up.
Stay tuned for more of the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Welcome back to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery.
Let's do some listener shout-outs.
Listener, shout out.
Fran, you go first with yours before
Yeah.
I hit my list here.
Now, I do want to say that now that we're including Spotify, the Spotify, I don't have them all listed because some of these people have commented on multiple episodes. Like the conversations are now starting on Spotify, and we're getting really good feedback.
Cool.
So I wanted to thank Carol Pollard, who sent me a message on Instagram in reference to, I had posted the story, the episode with Tim Mack from Birdscaping Unlimited. And she said that episode inspired her to go out and buy 5 native plants for bird habitat, nesting, and food to include along with her bird feeders, which was that was inspirational for her. Her response was very inspirational to us, saying that, that's why we do this. If, it wasn't, I'm ripping out everything and planting all natives. It was just like, hey, I'm making a change. I went out. I think it was a couple black chokeberries, a couple red chokeberry. I can't remember what the other plant is. I'm going to see if I can look real fast and see what it is without taking too much time. It was 2 black chokeberry, 1 red chokeberry, and 1 elderberry.
Nice.
So I thought that made me feel really good. I shared that with Tim Mack. He was thrilled that conversation made a difference to someone, and we just want to say thank you for sharing your actions with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And Mine is, we will start with, I got to find the list again. I scrolled away from it. With F Natural Me.
Yeah.
I now lost my other list with all the reviews on it so I can reference them. Oh, crap, Fran, where'd it go?
I don't know.
I'll find it. Give me a second.
I can bring it up real quick if you want me to.
No, I got it.
Okay.
Just a second here. Yeah, that they really. That's one of the people who really enjoyed the Birdscaping Industries and Camille Dungy episodes. And then, and
they live in the same town as Camille Dungy.
Yeah, live in the same town as Camille, so they're really excited for that episode. You had Farmer Matt NY, who I think we know who this is. I'm pretty sure.
I was thinking I knew who it was, but I'm not positive.
It's but they said we're hands down the best podcast about native plants, their ecology and botany, habitat restoration, and the nursery trade. Maybe if you make like the criteria is having all of them in there, maybe we're the best that has every single one of those things. But no, that's we're really honored by that. But there's a lot of great native plant podcasts. There's a lot of great ecology podcasts, botany podcast. Habitat restorations. I don't know of many. Well, there's some nursery trade podcasts out there now too.
There are. I know. Why am I drawing a blank? I can see her face and I can't think of her name. But there was
I know you're talking about too.
But it's a conservation restoration podcast that they started, which was fantastic.
So that's probably a good one to. We should do another one of those. Maybe that's what because our other buzz we have to do so fast that people won't be able to vote. So I was like, maybe we make that more of like a big conversation. Maybe that's what we do is our list of,
not do
of our favorite.
That.
Yeah, not do this or that, but do our lists of favorite eco-centric or plant-centric podcasts.
I love that idea.
Since we're doing this in like a couple days.
I love that idea.
Because we did one a long time ago. But we haven't done a new one, and there's a lot of new podcasts out there or resources out there that we can help steer people to that are good. One that I'll actually bring up right now, that we'll bring up again, is because I just listened to it last week, is The Wild Story, which Native Plant Society in New Jersey started putting out. Yeah, and they get it's a different style.
It's a different style. Yeah.
The poetry aspect is pretty interesting, and then they have some pretty good guests on there too to talk about plants. So,
yeah, totally. I'm looking while you're going through yours. I'm trying to see if I can figure out. For some reason, I lost all of my podcasts that were in my Apple Podcasts, so I don't have it listed in there. So I don't know why. So I'm going through LinkedIn right now to see if I can figure this out.
So we had Environmentally Friendly, which is also on Apple Podcast. That enjoyed listening to us for many reasons. Hopefully it's that we're knowledgeable and not that we're comedically entertaining in the negative way. You make a lot of mistakes and you can't believe what we're going to say next. So then we had did I do that one already? Ella Bella. Where's
no?
Ella
That's
Bella,
that's a new one. That one just popped up today.
Oh, that's why it's not on here. What did Ella Bella say?
Ella Bella said. Actually, they're all very complimentary, and I can't thank all of you enough for saying this. But Ella Bella said, "I've really enjoyed your shows. I'm new to listening to podcasts, a late bloomer, if you will. I recently purchased my first home here in southern New Jersey, and gardening in the Pines is a new experience for me. Found your show during the buying process, and realized that every time I listen to you guys, my stress level drops, and I found myself smiling. Thank you for what you do."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a compliment. I wonder if my wife thinks her stress level drops every time I talk.
I had the same thought. I'm like, I bet you my wife would have a different reaction to that.
That is interesting. There are people that when they talk, your stress level drops, and then there's people when you see they want to say something, your stress level just spikes right away. Yeah. Like, oh, what are they going to say?
But I'm sure the conversations I'm having with my wife are way different than the conversation we're having here.
And then with Jamie Toohey and Dina are Boot Hot. I don't know how you'd say that.
Boothot?
That makes more sense. Boothot instead of, or it might be Bootho. It could be French.
That's possible.
Bootho. But what did they say on Spotify?
It was more comments.
Just comments on episodes?
It's comments on Jamie Toohey has commented on multiple Net20, I think, has commented a lot, and I found out who that is. Do you want me to share who Net20 is?
You have to write it down, or can you
No.
I'll
say it. It's Santino.
Okay.
He's actually got a different name on he's commenting on multiple platforms.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because he wanted to increase his chance to win a Camille Dungy book, which is very smart.
Yeah.
So the person in the podcast I was trying to remember, it was Jean Lynch.
Yes, yeah.
And she started a podcast called Restoration Conversations, which is a great like industry-based restoration podcast, which is awesome for us. So, but I think that's a great idea for the next buzz. Instead of a this or that, we'll do our top native plant ecology restoration podcast.
And so that's it for me.
All right.
I had a lot.
Awesome. That was a lot. So we had no questions. We have no grow read a book. It's as a topic we wanted to bring up that we got a very nice email from Nancy Lawson. If you're familiar with Nancy, she's the author of The Humane Gardener and Wildscape. Just following up, were you aware that Nancy's sister was Janet Crouch?
Yes,
Janet and Jeff Crouch. Yeah. So of the what was the name of that article? They fought the lawn and they won.
Yeah, it was. They fought about the lawn and they won. Yeah.
Their struggle and fight with their HOA, and it was Nancy was just commenting on the episode that we had done back with Peter Groffman, which is Your Lawn Does What, and just a follow up. And she gave us some really great context, and I think Tom and I agree that we went into that first episode being really naive, and I think we kind of just that you can make a big difference by doing these things, which you can. But after talking to Melinda Soltis and then having her on, we got a whole different perspective about how hard that battle can really be. So
I think the one of the things that that I remember thinking, not living in an HOA, is these HOAs have boards. If you don't, and this is how I feel about a lot of things. If you don't like what's happening, try and do something about it and change it. And a lot of times that's by joining, I don't want to say infiltrating, but getting in with the group and convincing them that way, which is easier said than done. And it's something like I'm doing personally with different boards that I'm on. Is there's more native plant stuff going on in New Jersey with lawmaking, and it's a lot easier to do it from a board perspective. Or I should say, it's a lot easier to open the door from a board perspective, from an industry board or that kind of thing, than it is to try and do it on your own. But then you are also dealing with a group, and you can't speak on behalf of the group unless the group agrees with you. So that was my point of view on it. The issue is with some of these, the HOAs and different groups and different boards, is sometimes you're dealing with bigger personalities than others. So some places that's easy to do. It's easy to get involved and change those things. And I know that's happening in some places. And other places you have people who are can be control freaks.
You're in the minority in a lot of these. And it's after talking directly with Melinda, it makes me ever so thankful for people like Janet and Jeff Crouch and Melinda Soltis for putting up a fight that I don't know that I could have put up. And you hope that someone does it, and you look at these people and I can't believe what you went through to accomplish this, because it's not anyone would be able to do these things. But I know Nancy shared with us that the Beach Creek HOA has done a 180. They encourage people now to plant native plant gardens. And there's a new president that that is promoting some of these things, and they're planting native trees around the community and converting public lawns to meadows. But that's the current president, and there's always a disclaimer that board can always change and ideologies can shift again. So you have to hope that progress keeps marching in that direction, but it can always stop and go in another direction. They were saying that a house near Janet and Jeff's property just sold for a record amount, which just shows the value of what it can do. Yeah. It's not a detriment. It can actually be an extreme value. And it's just, we're seeing a snapshot in time of something that took years and years and years and a toll of someone's. It just, that permeates into everything you do. You can't get away with it. It's a battle that you're fighting that just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And it's commendable on so many different levels. And it's just, I appreciate Nancy just reminding us and bringing us to attention that it's more than just that end result.
Yeah.
You know, definitely. There were so many things that you could weave a movie about that you can't even tell all the twists and turns in the story.
Yeah.
But I appreciate Nancy reaching out to us, having that conversation with us, and opening a dialogue where we can have Nancy on the podcast and talk about her.
Yeah,
Janet and Jeff. I think Nancy was saying she's mediating a panel discussion that includes Janet and Melinda, which I would love to hear more about that. She also provided a lot of fantastic articles and resources. You know what? I'll put these in the show notes. I'll share some of these articles with our listeners if you want to know more, or if you're in the middle of this struggle or battle too. It's not something that, hey, Janet and Jeff won, it's all over.
Yes. Yeah, you got it in your own communities now.
Yeah, it's really just the beginning. Yep. So we'll share some of these articles that Nancy has written. And Nancy it's not just from this experience. She's a journalist. She did research.
Yeah.
She did Tom and I sat down and had a conversation. She did background checking and research and all these things to be able to put together words that were accurate depictions of what was going on. So we'll share that. And it's Nancy, thank you so much for listening and reaching out to us about these topics. And I'm the first one to admit that hey, sometimes we're wrong. And I don't want to say that we were just, I think, looking at it from, you mentioned your standpoint. I think for me, I was being naive. And we're the first ones to admit that we make mistakes, and it's a learning experience, not just for us. We hope it's a learning experience. We wear our mistakes on our podcast in public. So I'm thankful for being able, we spoke earlier about being able to have these conversations. Like, I was thankful that we were able to have that conversation.
Definitely.
So, I have a take it or leave it for you.
Yeah.
And maybe it's actually good timing, because originally this was going to air before the pawpaw, and now it's happening after the pawpaw. And we talked about, the importance of hybridizing pawpaws to be able to make it a sustainable crop, so that you have ones that fruit earlier, fruit later, have a better shelf life. Adam was just so knowledgeable and passionate on it. And I started thinking about it after the conversation, because he was concerned that some people would be really opposed to hybridizing this. Is it really any different than what we do with blueberry?
No.
All right.
No, it's the same.
If you're going to a blueberry farm, you're not getting just straight Vaccinium corymbosum. You're getting multiple varieties.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and there's well, I'll rephrase what you said. You're probably not getting multiple varieties when you go to blueberry picking. You're getting one variety that was ready at that time.
Yes.
Blueberry farmers have done, actually Rutgers did a lot of this for the blueberry farmers, is they developed varieties that some fruit earlier, like end of May or June, or early June, and then all the way through September.
Yeah.
So you'll have different varieties, and they'll all bloom a little earlier or a little later based on, and then they'll fruit a little earlier, a little later. They'll have different genetics for berry size, for berry color, for berry flavor. And then some of those have become favorites, like Blue Crop, like Duke, like I'm trying to remember, Elizabeth's another really popular one. So when you go to blueberry pick, you're getting whatever variety
is ready at
that time. Yeah. But and that's kind of what Adam is trying to do for pawpaws.
Yeah.
Is you have a native plant, you're tweaking it through breeding to create varieties that have more mass appeal, have extended the season, extend the shelf life, He mentioned color was a big thing because people, in their market research, they found if it's this color, people buy it X more many times or X more often. So I kind of mentioned in that Pawpaw podcast, it's not limited to pawpaws and blueberries. This is everything you eat. Yeah. It's corn, soybeans, strawberries, everything you see in the grocery, bananas. If you look at the historical versions of those foods, apples is a big one. You look at the historical versions of those foods, they look nothing like what you're seeing today. Yeah. At least with like a pawpaw and blueberry, they look the same.
Yeah. Even Adam was saying strawberries look different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know. Yeah. Well, size at least.
Size wise, yeah.
But have we ever run across anyone in our travels that was con blueberry, like against blueberry agricultural blueberry farming?
I imagine there's got to be somebody, but I haven't met anyone who's like anti blueberry farming.
I mean, you can buy straight species blueberry. I have straight species blueberry in my yard. We've never gotten to really eat any of them because the birds, get that, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. We didn't really put them in for us, although it would be nice to eat one of these days. But I was just curious, like, I think Adam had a real concern about people looking at it and being really against it.
He might have had that concern because I brought up that concern. Because as he's talking, I'm like, we're talking about breeding and all this stuff. And so much of what we're talking about with native plants is the opposite of that. Yeah. Where we're saying you don't need the breeding programs, which is, I've softened my stance on a lot of that stuff over the years. But depending on what the use is for. And if it's for consumption, if it's for restoration, you don't want varieties and cultivars and all that. There's no benefit from a restoration standpoint. Now, that being said, there have been breeding programs for other species where they do try and get better genetics for restoration purposes, whether it's quicker colonization or it's going to be a plant that stands more upright or falls down more, just so that it performs the goal that they're looking for. But there's very little that's happening.
You look at chestnut without the breeding work that they're doing right now and research. That's the difference between having chestnut and not having chestnut.
And that's even the next level where it's transgenic and they're inserting another plant's genes, which that makes it even more controversial. Yeah. But I think it's the same thing. I think it's really cool what he's doing. That you can have a fruit that has many flaws in today's food system, and if we face it, today's food system isn't going away. Yeah. But tweaking this fruit so it keeps so many of its great qualities, but may be able to have that shelf life or the packaging aspect where you're going to freeze it and give it mass market appeal. I think that's awesome.
And provide ecosystem benefits to our area because it's native to that area.
Is it better, like if you're you have a little home orchard, is it better that you plant a variety or a couple varieties of pawpaws, or is it better that you plant a couple of varieties of pears that are going to cross with the Bradfords that are out in your tree line? Like,
I don't know. The one thing I'm thankful for with this podcast as we continue into it, I mean, we're coming up on 4 years in February, is that I'm pretty much have always been a black and white person. This podcast has introduced gray into my color scale because you realize the more that you have these important conversations that it's not black and white, that there's so many factors that you're constantly weighing and looking at what's best in this situation, what's best in this situation. Not everything's a clear-cut answer. And I'm happy that we can have these conversations that maybe 5 years ago. Imagine if we had the pawpaw conversation 4 years ago. Would we have the same resolution as far as our thoughts? I don't know. Same with these take it or leave it's. Like some of these, would we have answered the same way 4 years ago, 5 years ago? Mm-hmm. I don't know that we would have. Yeah. Some, yes, but all of them, I'm not so sure. So I think that's all we have. That was pretty good.
There was something else. Oh, someone left the Instagram comment for us about the pawpaw episode, saying that they read something about
I saw that
pawpaws and becoming invasive in woodlands. That was put out by the national park. So I hadn't read anything about it. So I just did a quick Google search of like Paw National Park. And I don't remember if I put invasive there or not. And I did find some stuff from the National Park Service that was saying that, in some of these woodlands, the pawpaws were creeping into more upland areas. Yeah. But it wasn't necessarily that the pawpaw was invasive, is how I read it. It wasn't saying the pawpaws were invasive or getting aggressive and moving on their own. It was deer pressure. Deer apparently don't eat pawpaws. So they were eating all the spice bush and all this other stuff, and the pawpaws, because there was no will spread, but because there's no competition, are spreading it that's the same thing that happens with burning bush and barberry and all that kind of stuff, where how they spread because the deer don't eat them, and they're eating all the native plants that would normally compete with them and sometimes outcompete with them. So that was my comment back, was like, from what I've read, and it was a new topic for me, it's a deer issue. It's not necessarily that pawpaw is a bad plant. Yeah. And can be aggressive. Like
anything else, as this becomes more popular, it's going to start being planted in areas that it's not native to. Yeah. Areas of the country is not native to, and areas of the world, and even areas of, like, it may be native in Maryland, but maybe it's going to start getting planted in areas that it wouldn't necessarily be found naturally. Yeah. So, and that's going to change things over time too, as one plant becomes more popular than another plant.
Yeah, that's actually something for maybe, I don't know, sometime in our next buzz that we're going to do next week. Let's put in what my brother had told us about his trip to Japan. With native plants over there. Yeah. So, I guess non-native plants over there. Yeah. So instead of talking about it now, let's
we'll do it. We've actually done just about 90 minutes already. So
all right. Well, Fran, you got anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay, then that's going to wrap us up for today. We hope you enjoyed listening to The Buzz. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Native Plants, Healthy Planet, presented by Pinelands Nursery. I'd like to give a big thank you to that's you, Fran.
That's me.
I'm sorry, I'm going right ahead.
That's okay. RJ Comer, thank you for our Buzz intro theme music. Make sure you stream or buy RJ's music wherever you consume music. And also thank you to Dave Bennett for our Native Plant Anthem. You can follow us on Twitter at Pineland Nursery, Facebook at Pinelands Nursery NJ, Instagram at Native Plants _Healthy Planet, and YouTube at Pinelands Nursery. Don't forget about the question and comment line. Call us at 215-346-6189. I will repeat that, 215-346-6189. Ask a question or leave a comment. We'll do our best to play it on a future episode of The Buzz. And don't forget about our Native Plants Healthy Planet Facebook group. We talked about it a lot today with the great conversations. You can join and be a part of those conversations as well.
Yeah, so you can buy Native Plants Healthy Planet merch at our website, www.nativeplantshealthyplanet.com. There's a link right at the top, takes you to our store. We don't keep any of the profits from that. We send it to organizations we think are doing great boots-on-the-ground work with native plants. So not our retirement plan for Fran and I. No. Fran, you're a lot closer than that. And I would tell you it's not something I'd bank on being able to retire anytime soon if you're planning on selling.
It's not helping me get there a couple years earlier. T-shirts.
No. And another big thing you can do for us is subscribe to our show wherever you're listening right now, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever that is. And if it's possible on your platform, leave us 5-star review. That goes a big way in getting us in front of more ears or into more ears. So both of those things are very, very helpful. You do a little write-up with that 5-star review. I give you a shout-out on our Buzz episodes.
And your kind words are really helpful to our egos.
They are. They're helpful. They're helpful to our egos. They're really helpful in preventing burnout, I guess, is one way.
I agree.
We love doing this, but there is a time investment, and I think without some of that, if we were speaking in a blank space and not knowing how this is being received, it would be very easy to say, hey, you know what, maybe we hang up the headphones and retire from this game a while ago.
I agree. And actually, one of our coworkers, right before I mentioned that we're recording a podcast today, and they're like, I don't know how you can just turn yourself on and get up for that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you do it because you don't seem like you're in the mood today. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know. You get in front of the microphone. Like, there's many times that we've kind of had the conversation beforehand that one or the other one of us isn't as up for it.
Yeah.
And then you get into it and you're like, oh, I thought you weren't feeling it today.
Yeah.
You know, you were fine. And it's just once we start doing it and we start talking about these things, we get excited.
Yep. So, So with that.
Wait, no, we get to pick a winner now, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's
going to be
I almost forgot.
I almost forgot, too.
I almost forgot.
All right.
So we're giving away
my volume so everyone can hear the clicking.
All right. We're giving away one more book.
All right. Ready to spin and go.
All right. We have a winner. Who is it?
The winner is Registration Failed.
Oh, that's a more recent one. Yeah. That's a more recent one.
I was really excited because it had Red Astaire was the one before that, and I love that name. But yeah, Registration Failed, ? You can.
This is someone that's just commented in the last 6 months or put a review up in the last 6 months. So you have until, all right.
It's episode 183 now. We'll do until episode 186.
186. You have until episode 186 to. I'm writing that down in my notes so I don't forget. Registration failed. All right. You have a couple weeks. We're not in the time warp anymore, so you literally have 3 weeks to get back to us and claim your copy of Soil by Camille Dungy.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So with that, thank you, everyone. I'm Tom.
And I am Fran. Thank you again, everyone. Coming up next week, we have another buzz, so make sure you tune in. And until then, keep it native.
In meadows, woods, wetlands, and dales goes a bounty of beauty that never fails. Our native France, so diverse and so rare, treasures of our land beyond compare. From the ferns below, soaring oaks above, each plant has a place, each family's love. Monarch caterpillars launch milk, wheat so tall, bees buzzed about, sipping nectar fall. Oh, native plants, how you grace this land. In your diversity, we will take a stand. To protect and preserve our generations to come, and beauty and potency second to none. To protect and preserve the earth, to restore the native plant movement you just can't ignore.
Goldenrod, asters, and flowers galore. Monarch is so stunning, can't help but adore. Their colors, their fragrance, a feast for the eyes. Their value to wildlife, no need to disguise.
Native plants, how you grace this land. In your diversity, we will take a stand.
Thank you for listening to the Native Plants Healthy Planet podcast, presented by Pinelands Nursery. Remember to like, share, follow, and comment.